Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
Hey everybody, welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy. And today I'm talking to Naomi Cahn and June Carbone. They are two of the authors of the new book, Fair Shake, Women and the Fight to Build a Just Economy. Naomi Cahn is the Justice Anthony M. Kennedy Distinguished Professor of Law at the University of Virginia School of Law and the author or editor of numerous books, including Red Families versus Blue Families and Homeward Bound. June Carbone is the Robina Chair of Law, Science, and Technology at the University of Minnesota Law School. She has written books including From Partners to Parents, Marriage Markets, and Family Law. June is a co-editor of the International Survey of Family Law. Welcome, Naomi and June.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Yes, thank you for having us.
I'm going to start with a quote from the book that I thought summed it up perfectly, which Fair Shake, you say, is not a fix the woman book. It is a fix the system book. And I am here for that message. Your book starts with some truly shocking research about the wage gap between women and men and what is actually happening. So please explain what you found.
June, go ahead.
Sure. Well, we started the book when we were working on our last book on the family, Marriage Markets. And we were stunned to discover that while the overall wage gap was shrinking, that was only because blue-collar men's wages were falling so dramatically. For women, it's college graduate women who are doing better across a variety of measures. Women have become the better educated sex. Women are moving into all kinds of fields that used to be hard to them. And we found the gendered wage gap for college graduates, which used to be smaller than the gendered wage gap for working class women, was larger. Something started to change in the 90s, and we wanted to find out what it was.
I was blindsided by this because I just thought, like, no. This is the one place where things are going right. The arc is bending towards wage equity. That's how it is. I've checked that box. That's one thing I'm not worrying about. And it's unthinkable to me that for college-aged women, it's maybe even worse because we have been told that education is the key to attainment. So what's happening there?
Well, a couple of stories here. First is, we were shocked as well, right? That's why the book is here, is because what we're seeking to explain what that is. Part of the story, I think, is that we tend to focus on the positive stories. And so, yes, the number of female CEOs of top Fortune 500 companies is at its highest ever. And you know what that highest ever is? It's 10%. And so... Right. When you look at, the good story, right? If you look at one part of this story, highest ever, and you look at the other, so it's only 1 out of 10. And then if you look at the top 100 paid CEOs of the top 100 companies, 8 of them are women. And so there's something going on, and I'll turn it over to June to talk about our theory as to why.
Well, the first thing you have to see is what's happened to the pay at the top of the economy. So one of our startling discoveries is CEO pay. Go back 50s and 60s, it was about 20 to 1. That is, CEOs made about 20 times what the average worker made in their companies. When we last looked, it was 399 to 1. And if you look at something like finance, between the mid-80s and the financial crisis, over 50% of all increases in income in the entire economy went to finance. Now, when you start asking the question, not just why does that happen, but how does this affect women? The answer is really that CEO pay starts taking off at a point where CEO pay was calibrated to share price, big bonus stock options. And this is supposed to incentivize CEOs who are thought of as fat and happy to become more competitive. But there's a lot of evidence that the game is simply rigged. That is, CEOs negotiate pay packages in which they have consultants who are answerable to the CEO. And the way CEOs accomplish the metrics that drive share price is to game the system internally. So what they do, what we describe in the book is have high stakes bonus systems tied to short-term reductionist metrics, rank everybody against each other, make everyone feel insecure, and the people who win big. It doesn't matter if it's bad for the company.
So why are these things worse for women, though? I understand why the sort of barbelling of pay at companies is good for a very few people and bad for almost everybody else. And we also understand that that's been happening increasingly since the 80s and 90s. But why does that barbelling of pay affect women even more than it affects men at those same companies?
Well, this is what we call the triple bind. So what happens to women in such a system? First, women, it turns out, women are less likely to cheat. Secondly, when they do, they're less likely to get away with it. We have lots of examples in the book, including somebody from Wells Fargo who tried really hard to thread the ethical line of training employees how to open more accounts without creating fake accounts that would get them all in trouble. She was the one who was fired. The men sitting next to her who did things that were more egregious did not get fired. And then the third leg, which we spend a lot of time on, is women who realize what the name of the game is and realize they can't win are more likely to say, I don't want to play. Either they complain and they're fired, or they don't apply in the first place. And what you see, especially with the increased emphasis on hours that is part of this system, that a lot of women simply say, I don't need that. And so they settle for jobs that are less pressured, but more rewarding and pay less, or they are passed over for promotion. And that's a whole, we have lots to say
We
about
sure
that.
do. Okay, I'm talking to Naomi Cahn and June Carbone. They are the authors of the new book, Fair Shake, Women and the Fight to Build a Just Economy. And we will be right back. Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. So I want to go back and sort of make sure we underline these three parts of the triple bind that serve to sideline working women, because they are not only the three parts of your book, but they also are the three parts of this argument, right? So the first one is when women don't compete on the same terms as men, they lose. And we held number one to be self-evident. And so the advice on that about a decade ago was lean in, work harder, right? Talk more in meetings, refuse to be pushed aside, demand more, ask for that raise, go after it. The gap is being caused by you not behaving more like men do in the workplace. And you're saying that what happened was the second part of the triple bind. When women played by these same rules, they actually lost out. It didn't work so well. Is that what you were hearing in your research? Did women say, I tried that lean-in thing and it didn't work like I thought it would?
I don't think it was what women were doing as they were competing on the same terms. They didn't say, I was trying to lean in and this is what happened. They were saying, I was working alongside everybody else in the workplace, the men in the workplace, and look, this is what happened to me. And so it's our observation that leaning in, that trying to compete on the same terms simply was not working out for the lawsuits that we looked at, for the women with whom we spoke, and then statistically as well.
So then the third part of the triple bind becomes you really only have two choices. You can drop out or be pushed out. Not that those are the only two choices, but too often those are the two choices.
Or fight back, but fight back in systemic ways. So we anchored the book looking at a series of complaints that had been filed alleging sex discrimination. These complaints, if they're brilliantly successful and they win, result in settlements and non-disclosure agreements, and we can't tell you everything that happened. But a whole bunch of them lose, and a few go to trial. What we found is in every case, the women complained about unequal treatment and were penalized for it. Now, this is not, a statistically accurate sample, but we can give you lots of examples of women who said, I'm not getting the same support the men are. I want to move ahead. I want to push. They were aggressive. They were ambitious, and they were penalized for it. Where we have statistical analysis, it presents a more complex picture. There are records. There is mandatory reporting of employees who have committed misconduct involving their customers. Men are more likely to commit misconduct. In fact, the author of the study told us, you want to predict misconduct. Number one is a prior history of misconduct. Number two is gender. The women who commit misconduct cause their bosses smaller dollar losses than the men. They are more likely to be fired, less likely to be rehired. And the follow-up paper indicates that there's a market for misconduct. There are financial firms that specialize in ripping off customers, and they're eager to hire people, but primarily men who have a history of misconduct. So here's our story. If you have a high-pressure environment designed to produce certain results, and you can't really meet your numbers without cheating in some way, cooking the books, opening fake accounts, there are a variety of things that involve shaving the numbers. Then you have a system that management is very eager to keep hidden. If you're not performing in accordance with those metrics, you're gone. So if you don't play by those rules, you're gone. But if you complain about them, if you become a whistleblower, you're a threat to the entire system. So many of the women, they take the jobs, they're doing well, they get good evaluations, regular promotions, and then they hit a wall. And this is the classic glass ceiling, except when they complain and start pushing, they discover there was a hidden system, a system they didn't fully understand until they started complaining and then had a ton of bricks come down on their heads because they had become a threat.
I hadn't really thought about the whistleblower part of all of this for working women and how I had no idea, although it's obvious when you look back at so many of the whistleblowers that we hear about in the news are female. But the more sort of obvious part of this, at least for the working mothers who are listening to this episode is a discrimination against a working mother because there is not really support for the work it is assumed that she will take on, right? When the stuff hits the fan, you explain in the book, it is still much more likely that it is the woman who is going to take time off from her job or try to make it work with her job to take on the caretaking. Do you have data to support that that's still happening by and large?
Oh, if you look at the motherhood wage gap, it's very much still there. And it shows the reason for the motherhood wage penalty is, as I know you've explored, is women are the ones more likely to take time out. For example, when they have a child, they are also the ones more likely to choose jobs where they may be paid less, where there may be more flexibility, and where they won't have to feed into this overwork culture. So there's absolutely data on the motherhood wage gap and what happens upon the birth of each child. There are estimates, of at least 5% per child. And the question is, yes, we can say, oh, it's women's choices to opt out, or it's women's choices to enter careers which might be less demanding. But if you look at countries where the motherhood wage gap is lower, you see policies that are designed to support working women who are re-entering the workplace with children. And so there is an answer in other countries in terms of broader policies. We don't have those broader policies to support working mothers. And so we have situations. There was a really, really wonderful 2020 Harvard Business Review article, What's Really Holding Women Back by Robin Ely and Irene Panovich. And they looked at a global consulting firm to try to figure out why women were less likely to become partners, et cetera. And they found a lot of different things. Part of it was the overwork culture, but then part of it was that the partners who were mothers were not viewed favorably. And so there was also an attitude that the women who were willing to do all of this leaning in, it's this penalty. They're penalized when they lean in.
You make a point in the book about childcare, too, that when there's an opportunity to work a lot of overtime, implicit in that is probably the opportunity for advancement for people who show up at this time, but that if the woman is also the primary caregiver, the costs of childcare while she works that overtime might be so expensive it's not worth doing that overtime. Or at some point, the cost of childcare becomes so great it's not worth also working outside the home because the cost of childcare is so extravagant. I hadn't thought of that piece of it in particular before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I will add, when I was out in California and teaching a class on gender and law, I wrote on the board what I was paying in childcare at that time. And my class gasped. My class of law students gasped that it was unaffordable. And the year my third child was born, it took up close to my entire salary as a law professor. But I want to talk about what's changed, because one of the ways we start the book is this has always been a problem for working women. And it's very important to emphasize how this system really does a whammy on working mothers. And in spite of the fact that working mothers are more attached to the labor system than either blue-collar women who presumably need the money more, and increasingly more than lots of men. And I want to talk about how this system really hurts mothers. So part of what's happened is we describe, and we use the term, there's a wonderful set of empirical studies about masculinity contest cultures. And they dominate. They dominate tech, they dominate finance, they dominate executive ranks. And let me give you a couple of examples. So when you look at the Walmart class action, the things that were supposed to hurt women. One, Walmart had a policy where it moved its store managers around every 3 years or so, hundreds of miles away, often on short notice. And it hired people through a tap on the shoulder, didn't announce positions. Then we looked at GE, also moves its top executives around every 2 to 4 years. If you're on the pathway to advancement, you got to move hundreds of miles away. And one of the things that has crept into this system is where you have competitive pay that pits people against each other, hours becomes an end in itself. It's not linked to productivity. It's not linked to the needs of the job. It's designed to show you are more loyal, you are more committed than the other person. We highlight when we talk about Tesla, a woman who got her job because she put in 26 hours straight. And the people
she
in
did not have kids.
We're so impressed.
Right.
Yes.
I figured.
We're
as far as we know.
So impressed. They made her an engineer, even though she had no background in engineering. And that's what happens with the guys. It's impressing the higher ups that you will make them look good. That's what's important. Now, in that kind of environment, what's interesting is what happens to women. So again, the system, and Sam Walton said this, Jack Welch at GE said it, Elon Musk says it at Tesla. What they're looking for is not the person who's paid their dues, worked their way up, steadily and promoted through the ranks. They're looking for the person with promise. And what does promise mean? Jack Welch described it as confidence to spare. And a management scholar who studied Welch said, what's the one quality worldwide men have over women? Hubris. And it does not correlate with better performance. When we look at these systems, we find women are often rated as having less potential, even if the metrics are such that they're outperforming the men. Why? It's hubris. It's commitment to the job. It's very hard for a mother to come across in the same way. Secondly, women who are passed over for promotion are less likely to leave. This is the mommy track, but it's also the loyal workers who make the trains run on time. Third, if you look at women who do switch jobs, there's a small-scale study in finance indicating that women who switch jobs do not do as well as the men who switch jobs. And Sally Krawcheck talks about it in turn. She's been fired from 2 very high-ranking positions in finance for being too ethical. And her comment is the nature of male networks and female networks are different. Male networks are more transactional. The networks allow you to succeed in the new company. But practically what this means is, if you look at the studies, women who have babies are less likely to quit than less educated women. Higher educated women who have babies are really very sticky, but they're also less likely to switch jobs because you get a job, you establish yourself, your coworkers respect you, you have a kid. You really can't leave at that point. The emphasis in the literature has been on the ability to, transplant your family somewhere else. We argue a lot of it is the support network. So in a high-stakes environment, you take a new job, you've got to prove yourself all over again, and that means putting in long hours, even if you can get the job done without it. If you stay where you are, you've got a support network of people who understand you're outperforming the people around you, even if you go home at 5 o'clock. And in today's world, the willingness to move is critical to advancement in the top ranks. In the bottom ranks, it's a system that pushes women out. They cycle in it. Working class women cycle out of dead-end jobs in accordance with childcare needs. A different story.
I'm talking to Naomi Cahn and June Carbone. They are the co-authors of the new book, Fair Shake, Women and the Fight to Build a Just Economy. When we come back, we're going to talk about solutions. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
So June and Naomi, on this podcast, usually in our final segment, we do pivot to solutions. What are we going to do about what we've been talking about? In this case, the considerable headwinds that working women and working mothers have in today's workplace. There are things we can do, and I think the book lays them out very successfully at the societal level, at a company level, and finally at the personal level. But I wanted to start out by underlining that you have research that shows that doing this work, it makes companies better, that effective communication, diversity in hiring also makes companies do better than companies that don't. Why do you think that is?
So I think the most interesting thing that's happened is NASDAQ. Again, there's a lot of discussion of DEI and, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors in funding. And there's a lot of skepticism about this stuff. But look at NASDAQ. So NASDAQ is a stock exchange, and it has mandated disclosure of the number of women on boards. And it did so because it found the more women on boards, the less the incidence of securities fraud, fake accounts, and a variety of other things. And we think the reason for this is that, as we've argued, it's not, when you talk about women being more honest, we think that's an overgeneralization. You can find dishonest women if you look hard enough. It's that women can't get away with it. And they are less likely to be part of a system where, you scratch my back by cooking the books and I scratch yours, and then you get me the next job. Again, female networks don't work that way the way male networks do, especially in male-dominant societies or companies. So NASDAQ has said, hey, increase gender diversity. And even on basic things like, do your accounting numbers require corrections for misstatements? The companies do better. So what you have is a system where higher levels of diversity and racial diversity as well as gender diversity tend to correspond with companies that are more transparent, more likely to be at least trying to follow the law, less likely to be run as what we call a new boys club, where an inside group is gaming the system to benefit themselves. So we see some optimism there.
We do want to emphasize, although the title of the book focuses on women, it's not just women who can be these transformational leaders who can do this. In fact, we look at what it is about what's associated with women that is successful. And we go back in the 50s, the organization man, the man in the gray flannel suit was definitely a man, but he exhibited many of the qualities that are today associated with female leadership. So it was cooperation within your team, competition with other companies rather than within your company. It was teamwork. It was a focus on the collective. And so these are traits that are associated with women rather than only being women who can do them. And also it's not that all women are doing these things, but all kinds of studies show that women who are leaders inspire people to go along with the mission of that company compared to male leaders, that they are more likely to be perceived as being confident. People anticipate that they will receive fair treatment in a workplace if the organization is led by a woman, and there's more teamwork. So there are a lot of different things that women-led companies or women-led teams actually have, and that can make a difference to a company.
So if you're a woman listening to this episode, and if you weren't aware of the ways that the deck is stacked against you, you're even more aware of them now. Maybe your company isn't run by a woman yet. This transparent tomorrow, right? This more diverse other end of the rainbow is something that maybe you could work toward at some point, but you're not there yet. What are some of the things that working women can do on a personal level to try to affect some change in their workplaces?
One thing I'd like to mention is you have to be willing to leave. And so if you start thinking like a guy, it's to ask the question that, what's my next move? If they don't really fully appreciate me here, what else is out there? Right now we have a tighter job market. You can move. What we find is that women are more reluctant to move, partly because they're more loyal, partly because they tend to have more invested in a support group, especially if they have kids. I'm not going to say switch jobs for higher pay, but I am going to say if you have a toxic boss, you want to move.
June is absolutely right. You have to be prepared to negotiate from strength. And your strength is knowing not just your own worth, but knowing your worth to other companies. But you can also, regardless of whether you're in a toxic workplace, you need to start having conversations about pay parity. You need to be as open as possible. There needs to be, as you've already mentioned, Amy, transparency here is key. If you don't know what other people are earning, I'm not saying everybody reveal precisely what their salary levels are, but you need to figure out how much of a disparity there might be between men and women in the workplace. You need to build support networks both within and outside of your company. And that can be incredibly delicate as you try to figure out the others whom you would like to trust or can trust. But certainly having that support within your company is helpful. And if you need to leave, having that support outside of your company is useful. Mentorship alone is not enough, as we well know, but be a mentor who invests in your mentee, or find someone who will support you and invest in your ability to succeed. So there are certainly actions that can be taken. The other thing is, if you are co-parenting, make sure you have a supportive co-parenting partner who can help you with all of this, who will support you, who, if you do have to work a 26-hour shift, can provide support in whatever manner that you need. So those are kind of micro things. And then we also, of course, do talk about some systemic policy changes that would provide more support for working women, working mothers, and for that matter, everybody else in the workplace.
And working parents in general, right? There's no reason that working dads have to be left out of this conversation. They deserve fair family leave policies too, and to work at companies where it's not going to be snickered at if they exercise those rights.
One of our closest friends was the first law firm associate at his firm to take parental leave. And yeah, he faced a fair bit of ridicule for doing that. And he said, it is worth it to me to spend the time with my children. End of story. It did not sidetrack him. He faced down all of the criticism and did succeed at the firm, and found that it was worth it. It was worth spending the time with his children and we all have to figure out this work-family balance.
I've been speaking to Naomi Cahn and June Carbone. They are the authors of the new book, Fair Shake, Women and the Fight to Build a Just Economy. I will put the link to all the places you can buy the book in the show notes. Naomi and June, can you each tell us a little bit about where our listeners can find more about you and your work?
You can certainly go to our websites. June's at the University of Minnesota. I am at the University of Virginia. Just put in our names into Google or whatever your browser is, and we will then come up. And we are both on the feed that was formerly known as Twitter. I am a senior contributor to the Forbes Leadership channel, so I frequently write there. Our articles have appeared in an outlet called The Conversation. June?
And if you want our academic work, it's available without charge on SSRN, and you can have lots of detailed statistics and our analysis of the legal background for the book, which we toned down the legal analysis in the book, but our happy to describe and have described in our published work how sex discrimination law gets you very little in today's world, but sexual harassment law and whistleblower protections have become more important.
Interesting. This is research worth looking into, and both of you have done your homework for us, so thank you so much. Thanks for talking to me today, Naomi Cahn and June Carbone, authors of the new book, Fair Shake. Thanks, Naomi and June.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.